Okay, so here's the simple part of this. There are people that have been banned from this channel, and it's usually because of comments that they make. Sometimes it's other stuff. Sometimes, like, they'll mail me something, and I'll just be like, was that a murder thing? What is that? But usually it's comments. And so the bottom line is this. What I think is incredibly important is to understand that I did not want to pick a comment when I did this video that was extremely to the one way this way or one way to the that way. I wanted one that was in the middle. Normally, the usual thing that people will do when they're trying to make a point is they will pick like the most extreme example over there or the most extreme example. I don't want to do that. I want to pick a middle one, and I want to get your thoughts on it, and I want you to tell me what you think. And then I'm going to tell you without a script. There's no script for this video. We are freewheeling right now. I want you to tell me specifically what your thoughts are before I tell you what I think about the comment. Are you guys ready? Because remember, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and comment essentially, essentially on ... what you think this is. If you think it's appropriate, whether somebody should be banned on it or not. Okay. Remember, I picked the middle ground one. I didn't want one that was going to be like so easy for you to figure out. You'd be like, of course that person was banned. They just called you this. No. We picked the middle one. All right, here we go. I'm going to read it to you. I'm not giving you the name. I'm going to read it to you. If you really need to be on disability and have medical documents to back up your real problem, you shouldn't have to worry about a disability hearing with a judge or worry about falling into their trap with the quick questions. I was just honest, and because of that, the judge gave more weight to my hearing and my answers than the doctors that filled out paperwork, because my answers gave them the same info as my medical records and test results. And I was honest about what I could and couldn't do anymore because of my illnesses. So I would advise people to keep your own good medical records and just be honest. Can't go wrong with being honest. All right, that's the first read. You tell me in the chat what your thoughts are. Should the person be banned? Should the person not be banned? Let me see what we're looking at. Let me see in the chat section specifically if you guys think this person should be banned. I'm going to read it one more time, okay? And then I'm going to go ahead and give you my thoughts. They're probably going to be a little bit different than you guys, okay? Here we go. Okay, one more time. If you really need to be on disability and have medical documents to back up your real problems, you shouldn't have to worry about a disability hearing with a judge or worry about falling into their trap with the quick questions. I was just honest, and because of that, the judge gave more weight to my hearing and my answers than the doctors that filled out paperwork, because my answers gave them the same info as my medical records and test results. And I was honest about what I could and couldn't do anymore because of my illnesses, so I would advise people to keep your own good medical records or just be honest. Can't go wrong with being honest. What are your thoughts? Do you think that this person should be banned? Do you think that this person should be heralded as a hero of truth? Where do you guys sit with that comment? And then I'm going to let you know. I'm going to literally break it down for you. All right, so let's see what we got here. Let's see what we got. So they said, okay, first person said over here, I see love pugs. Howdy, howdy. Richard said truth. T and Terrence said no, they just need education. M. Fairchild 30 said banned. Slatherings left libertarian, so not banned, but educated maybe. Robert Wolf, Dan Walter, you're making me think. That's good. That's good. That's the point of the video. That's the point. That's why we're freewheeling it right now. Okay, let me tell you, we got shorts on. We don't want to catch the pants in the bicycle. As the thing turns up. We're freewheeling right now. All right, now Kathy said not banned, but be real about the system. T said left libertarian as well. Robert Wolf said what's behind the wall. He's waiting for the discovery on this thing. Franklin Good said every story is different. That statement should be ignored if it gets worse than banned, unless they're trying to mess up your channel. Susan Sells said they should watch all of your videos to be educated. Great. Slathering said, my guess is the evidence outweighed any reason they could come up with to deny him. It's actually her in this case. Tanya said, it sounds like someone from the SSA wrote it. Doesn't it? It does, doesn't it? It feels like a government-like approach. If you really need to be on disability, it does feel like that. It almost feels like an OIG, like, We feel very strongly under the circumstances for the following reasons that the dichotomy will be afforded if it is such a part 1, part 2 within the taxonomy shall be understandably a very good choice. It sounds like that. It sounds like that like official, like, okay, I'm going to break it down for you guys. I'm going to read it through sentence by sentence and give you where I feel. Again, there's no script. I could say something incredibly wrong, rude, wonderful. We will see probably the first one. Okay, here we go. If you really need to be on disability. Okay, so what is this about really needing to be on disability? Like, if you're a rich person, you shouldn't go on disability. If you paid for it and you're disabled, shit, you should go on it. That's how it works. But again, if you really need to be on disability, well, if somebody can't work, right, then they should attempt. Now, I understand there's fraudsters. I get it. Okay. And have medical documents to back up your real problem. Okay, so the bottom line is, what about the homeless people who don't have insurance? Do we just say F them? Are we cool with that? Do we just say F the homeless? Because I work with the homeless every week. And I mean, they don't have insurance. Some of them might have Medicaid. They're the lucky ones, like a Florida Blue or this or that, or maybe there's like a Med-Cal on Cali. But most of them don't have insurance. Do we just say, the people who are literally stuck living in the woods, do we say, they don't have real problems because they don't have real medical evidence? All right. You quote, you shouldn't have to worry about a disability hearing with a judge. Why? That's literally the process. If you're under 50, you're very, very likely to have to go in front of a judge. Your likelihood of being denied at the initial filing or reconsideration stages are obnoxiously high, even if you have really good medical evidence. Okay. You shouldn't have to worry about a disability hearing with a judge or worry about falling into their trap with the quick questions. Okay. So if you're going to go to a hearing, would it not make sense that you should prepare yourself for the questions that the judge is likely to ask you? I mean, look. And I see Shuri McClellan. Thank you for the $9.99 donation. That's awesome. That's super chat right there. I still don't really know what a super chat is versus other donation. I don't really know what about. I'm getting a little heart to that thingy. That's awesome. Very, very cool. So, and again, it was $9.99 donation with looks like a balloon. That's awesome. So here's my thing with this. When people cheat in school, they know the questions and the answers ahead of time. Then when they get older, right, and they have meetings, they like to know the questions and likely answers, right? And then they get life problems or have to go into court. They want to know what the legal rule is and what questions are going to lead to that. So it's questions and answers. That's what you're running. That's what you're going to do to train yourself to do well in a hearing. Oh, there's no training you can do going into a hearing. Wrong. You absolutely can train to know the questions and the answers. You should, especially when they ask them quickly, especially when they're tricky. Come on, guys. We'll go back to the quote. I was just honest. Now remember, honest, there's no perfectly honest person. Everybody screws up because nothing they say is perfectly honest. I can guarantee you, if we apply science to what they're saying, you will undoubtedly find something that they've said wrong. Undoubtedly. There's just no way to be perfectly honest about blah, 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 blah. Okay. Let's keep reading about this whole, like, I'm an angel sent from God, but I fell down to earth and I've made this comment. And because of that, judge gave more weight to my hearing and my answers. So gave more weight to my hearing. That doesn't make sense. And my answers than the doctors. So here's the part that makes sense. And my answers than the doctors that filled out paperwork. Okay, so she's saying that doctors filled out paperwork and the judge gave more weight to her testimony during the hearing than the medical evidence. Okay. That would almost always be a bad move for the judge. Almost always. Okay. Then she says, okay, so let me just read that again real quick. So I was just honest, and because of that, the judge gave more weight to my hearing and my answers than the doctors that filled out paperwork. I think she means her hearing testimony, what she said. And she's saying that, the judge believed her more than her doctors, okay, that filled out paperwork. Because my answers gave them the same info as my medical records, which means she's, now saying the opposite. She's saying that people who filled out medical documentation. The judge decided against them at first, and now she's saying that her testimony lines up with her medical documentation. Maybe she means that, like, the SSA doctors, the judge didn't believe them and believe her doctors more. Maybe that's where she's going with this. Okay. Because my answers gave them the same info as my medical records and test results. Okay. And remember, the judges always go to first the test results, medical imaging, blood tests. They always go to that stuff first. That's like their keynote because that's the most, that stuff right there is the most definitive objective evidence. So they're not going to her. They're not going to her testimony above that. They're going to the test results first. Okay. And I was honest about what I could and couldn't do anymore because of my illnesses. Now, here's the thing. People can do certain stuff on some days, certain stuff on another day. Everybody can get caught doing something outside of what they normally say they could do inside of a hearing. So to be fair, just being like honest about what you can or cannot do, that is not definitive the thing that's going to win a claim. You're going to need the whole package. You're going to need the judge to like the claim. Okay. So I would advise people to keep your own good medical records and just be honest. Can't go wrong with being honest. All right. So let me summarize this thing, because she's selling honesty is like angelic, and then therefore you shall be saved and given disability benefits. It starts out with, you shouldn't need to train yourself for the future because you're already disabled. You don't really have much to worry about. You're just going to be honest and we'll all work out. The first assumption that this person makes is that all of the adjudicators at the SSA are fair, square, equal, honest, to the degree of consistently giving the same, adjudication result every time. If that were true, then disability judges wouldn't have different percentages of allowances that we always look at, because we know some judges have a 10% allowance where you have to be in a coma to be found disabled. And some judges have an 80% allowance where it's like, I don't know if they're that disabled, they'll still go through. So we know right off the bat, just being honest and not preparing is terrible advice. But here's why I thought when I read it that she should be banned. I didn't ban her, but here's why I thought she should be banned. When somebody does this and they're like, oh, everything's perfectly, straightforward, just be honest. And they're saying, oh, the ultimate result of that is, don't worry, the SSA at the first initial filing will give you a fair shot every time. If that were true, then we wouldn't have a need for reconsideration. We wouldn't have a need for ALJ hearings. We wouldn't have a need for appeals council, AAJs. We wouldn't have a need for federal district court, federal circuit court, or the Supreme Court of the United States. We wouldn't need to appeal. We wouldn't need to. But here's the problem. This person has done one of the greatest sins that I see committed by disabled to other disabled. And I want you to hear me out on this. Theodore, thank you for the $10 donation. I really appreciate it. That's awesome. That's super cool. Very cool that you're on SSDI. Awesome. So here's basically the deal. Deb Carter, howdy, I see you there. So here's the deal. Here's one of the greatest sins I see disabled people doing to other disabled people. Disabled people will give shitty advice to other people who haven't been found disabled yet. And when they do that, they are looking down at the other person who's trying to get onto disability benefits. We all know that those people found disabled back in the day, that a significantly, massively huge percentage of them are now being kicked off of benefits, are now having overpayment problems. The rules were vastly easier to be found disabled back in the day. The judges were significantly higher percent passage rate back in the day. There was a law firm that literally went into bankruptcy because the percentage change of how many claims were approved versus denied, which is Binder and Bender, was such a drastic change that they couldn't, with their model, keep up with the amount of denials they were getting versus approvals. So to make this joust, that all you have to do is be honest and have real medical documentation for your real impairments, is talking down to people who are trying to get benefits in the modern day. Because the whole idea of just being honest, sweet as a pie, cardinal-like saint, this fallen angel, this like Christian identity of perfection, right? This, It's so talking down to other disabled people. I was disgusted when I read this. Now, most people would be disgusted, but most people also don't know what I know about the system. And to be fair, when you tell somebody this, what you're really saying to them is, you're not as disabled as I am, and therefore, maybe you'll get it only if you're truly, really disabled. That's what they're really saying. Only if you are truly, really inside the box of being disabled will you get it. So long as you're super honest about exactly how disabled you are, then potentially they will trust your statements over what the doctors were saying. Okay, so here's my problem with that. When an individual talks down to other disabled people and makes them feel like shit, I don't like it. I erase the comment. As many as I can, because there's literally thousands and thousands and thousands of comments out there. I can never get to them all. And there's always somebody out there that's like, I've written 5 times on your videos, different videos, the same question you've never answered. How dare you? I haven't seen the first one. If I did, I probably would have responded to it. But the point is, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of them. And so my whole thing here is this. When I see them, when it's me seeing them, and I see somebody go, oh, all you have to do is, basically, collect all your evidence and submit it and you'll win. When I see like, oh, it was so easy for me, I can't believe how easy it was. I don't know why people are having such a problem. They must not be that bad. When I see that, I get livid because it's spitting in the face of everything I do on a daily basis to help people get into the system. And the amazing thing is, those people, I'm so disabled people, those people have not the slightest fucking fairy tale of a clue of what the definition of disability is. They don't know the basics. They don't even know, you look it up on the Social Security Administration website and see the cute little paragraph. They don't even know the intro paragraph, let alone the 5-step sequential process, the case law that results. They don't know any of that. But in their brain, they are disabled because they were found disabled. They ignore the fact that they had, a higher percent passage rate judge and, geez Louise, they got a doctor that's a pay-to-play doctor, and that doctor is giving them really great, medical documentation, RFCs, all this stuff. They don't talk about that amazing health insurance their parents bought them. So to me, it was on the verge of essentially banning the person, but I didn't, because it was an education thing. I thought about how I'd respond to that person. I thought about what I would say, and I wasn't ready because I was too angry. And so when I saw it, I was just like, damn, how could somebody be that just wrong on so many things? Danny ICURN, very, very cool. Thank you for the $5 donation. That's awesome. That's so cool. So the big thing is this. That, to me, was more in the middle. And the first thing you guys said was, no, not banned, but definitely educated. And I agree. That was not a ban the person situation. That was a educate the person situation. I didn't have time to educate them because I have to write out 3 paragraphs. But what I did was I basically erased the comment because I don't want people who are sitting there on year 3 after going in front of the judge, getting a denial, right? To get a denial. And then this person's like, it'll just go through if you're honest. Shucks, it'll be, it's so easy. No. In the future, you have to understand, those people are a dying breed. Okay? That's like the closest thing we come to like the classic, whatever you want to call it. I don't like to use the word Karen, but people use it very frequently. That's the closest thing you will find to a disabled Karen-esque individual, right? That kind of it's that I'm better than you. All you have to do is I'm better and therefore you'll be fine if you just do what I did. And the problem I have with this is that, imagine you're a disabled person. Some of you guys will basically, I see Diane Fernandez with the little sweetie icon. That's awesome. That's Sweetie, one of my dogs. So what will happen is this. Some person after 3 years plus will be sitting there. They just got their unfavorable letter. They're so disabled, they can barely walk. damn near bedridden. They're so disabled, they can barely, function, barely eat. And the judge says, no, you're denied. How did the honesty help there? How did the good medical evidence help there? How did the statements and testimony during the hearing help there? And so my point is, you have to understand that everything has to be flowing in the right direction. You have to have great medical documentation. You have to have a higher percent passage rate judge. You have to have great testimony, know your questions, know your answers before the hearing. You have to have all of it going in your direction, because the judges, they see a lot of claimants and they have to choose between those that they've seen that day, which ones they're likely to approve. Think about that. Think about that. There's a percentage there, right? If a judge has a 40% passage rate and they see 5 people, how many of those that they saw today of the 5 people will get approved? How many will get approved the next day? Denise Ware, thank you for the $4.99 donation. I always love the Fox ones. I love that. That's awesome. Very adorable. Very, very adorable. So my point is, I did not go ahead and ban this person. There are other ones where they'll make fun of me or attack me, or they'll attack people in my family. There's literally people who look up like anything they can find on me. Like they're better than ex-girlfriends looking up stuff. And the crazy thing about it is that one of the things that really gets me upset is when disabled people look down on disabled people. A lot of people on the channel will usually write down, my disability can't be seen. And that's their reflex response to, just because you can't see it doesn't mean that it's not as bad as yours. That's their knee-jerk reflex, reaction to somebody saying that, their impairment is better than their impairment. There are just an unlimited amount of medical conditions that people can have. Somebody with a stroke isn't necessarily better than somebody with depression. And I'm going to say this, and then we're going to go to the video where I answer questions live. Okay, I'm just going to say this, and then I'm going to move on. It is my belief that blind people are not the most severely, extremely impaired people that are out there. I get that blindness is horrible. I get that it's one of the main functions we use to go ahead and do things. I get that. But I think one of the most severe impairments out there, okay, if you want to gauge these things, like actually gauge them, is somebody who is suicidal, homicidal. Because if somebody is willing to take somebody else's life and then their own, I do not see blindness being that bad. I see that as the ultimate horrible impairment. And do you know how many homicidal, suicidal people are out there as a comparative against other disabled individuals? Not many. Not many. For obvious reasons. So when somebody says, oh, I have fibromyalgia, I got disability for fibromyalgia and it's really bad, I sit there and I cringe. You don't have to be that person that pushes other people down. And fibromyalgia, judges do not look at that as a very serious impairment traditionally. They don't. They just, it's like if they're not sure what to put down, okay, it'll be diagnostic impression, fibromyalgia. And my point to you is this, like when it comes to other disabled people, don't use the approach of comparison in the sense of who is worse, okay? My heritage gets into that a lot, okay? My heritage gets into that way too much, like, the whole like who suffered more in history stuff. But when you talk to somebody else about their impairment, this is what you should do. Learn about their impairment and the remedies they're using. Because somewhere in there, they've tried some remedy, some medication, some treatment that might help your impairment. So instead of judging them and being like, where am I on the severity level here? Where am I here? Are they down here? Where am I? Ask them what they've done. Because something they might have used for treatment might actually work for you. And the reason I say that is this. Western medicine is controlled by multi-billion-dollar corporations. Other world medicines are not. So what you find is sometimes there's some unique solution that's simple and it fixes the problem. But you wouldn't know that unless you ask them. So try to learn about the other person's impairment because it will afford you potentially life-changing options for treatment. I'm telling you. You wouldn't believe what people do to get fixes. You wouldn't believe what countries they go to get fixes. You wouldn't believe where the best medical treatment on earth is. You wouldn't believe me if I told you. Anyways, guys, I will catch you a little bit later. You have a wonderful, wonderful night. Please be kind to everybody. And the next video, we answer questions. We're going to go live and go through and basically try to answer as many questions for those who have questions about Social Security law as I can in a short period of time. Have a wonderful night. I will catch you a little bit later, and we'll go from there. Thanks so much. All right. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.